Hello, it's Polish Pol VR, welcome to my channel, and this is first of my top 10 video I ever did. In this one we crushing our dreams and gonna share a tear and be like, oh, that's a shame. Because we're doing top 10 cancelled PlayStation VR games. There is more than 10 cancelled, but I choose 10 best ones, and also I choose 10s which upset you the most. I do apologize, but it could have been so good. Let's do it. Number 10. Final Fantasy 15 VR Experience. So this was a shooter set in Final Fantasy world. It's meant to be like an experience, a complete Final Fantasy 15 game, and Square Enix, instead of expanding on it and making it better, somebody was in office and said, you know what this game needs? Fishing. This would be good game if it was a fishing game. And then another person who must be sitting in that office said, whoa, that's an awesome idea, let's change it to a fishing game. And that's why we've got Final Fantasy Monster of the Deep. But the gameplay from this one, even though it was very early gameplay and it showed a lot, showed off plenty of action and good experiences in VR, but sadly it didn't happen. But some people still love Final Fantasy 15 Monster of the Deep, while other people hating it. Number 9. Adrift. This one was done actually by the dude who's done Firewall 0 Hour. And this one actually released on PlayStation as well, but it's meant to come with PlayStation VR support. Sadly, it didn't happen because the studio went down big time and shut down. The person said, fuck it, I'm not doing this studio anymore, let's go somewhere else and make Firewall instead, which is awesome game by the way. But Adrift wasn't too bad either. In this game, you just was an astronaut who's been in some kind of disaster, everything gone down and nothing worked. Everyone died, you only one alive, but you've got no memory and no clue what you're supposed to do, and guess what? You need to survive as well. But sadly, not in VR. Number 8. Cold County. This game was described as combination of Silent Hill and The Walking Dead. The developers really put a lot of time and effort in making it. They even took it to Kickstarter, but sadly failed. The footage you see in the background is just like pre-alpha footage of one level, but they did was concentrating on great environments, great atmosphere and great scares and just great shit in your pants moments. But sadly not only they failed Kickstarter, but also they failed to keep the studio alive, and they went out of the business. Number 7. Gunship Battle 2 VR, a helicopter game which we don't have yet on PlayStation VR. So this was spoken of having PSVR version back in the day before PSVR even released, when everyone was saying yes, we're gonna do VR support for PSVR, but sadly reality changed everyone's plans because they realized how hard is VR development, and actually putting game on PlayStation VR is even harder due to the requirements of keeping constant 60 frames per second frame rate per eye, may I say, comfort options, and Sony's ruthless quality assurance. Saying ruthless, they actually just want to make sure we're having good experiences, so can't moan too much about them. Without them you wouldn't have games like Wild Turkey Hunter or Ark Park or Fug Life and other many very special games. But what we miss in PlayStation VR department is pretty much fucking flying games, and especially the helicopter games, which we have none of. And it doesn't look like we're gonna have any in the future, so Gunship Battle 2 VR would be nice, but sadly came out on mobiles, but not on PlayStation VR. Number 6. WRC 6. Wow, this would be so cool to play that in VR. They actually been showing it off at E3 2016 and they've been presenting it and nothing came out of it, sadly. And racing games as well as flying games are very deeply missed on PlayStation VR department, so this one would be very nice addition, especially that WRC6 is a very good game. A nice racing games with some nice models, nice driving physics, and just all together nice vibes. So it was silently cancelled and never happened in VR, while WRC6 series continues. The VR for it sadly doesn't continue. Maybe in the future on PSVR 2, on PS5, who knows, but for now it doesn't happening and it makes my piss boil. Number 5. Alvo. How much hopes was for this game. The studio who brought up Quiz Night Tonight, which many people doesn't like at all, they said they gonna do Alvo, it's gonna be their biggest project. The community got hyped, everyone wanted this game, people been waiting impatiently, they even announced AIM support, It was multiplayer shooter that we always wanted. They even got sign-ups for the beta. Everything was going smoothly, but suddenly they went very quiet. Nobody knew what's really happening. Other games started coming out. Firewall came out meanwhile and became the #1 shooter on PlayStation VR, and Alvo was quietly not there. But lately, speaking to the developers, they said, yes, the game is cancelled, the team is disassembled, the game is not happening, they couldn't find investors, they pretty much had no money to make it. Number 4. Snow, which is a free-to-play game, but the developers wanted to give it VR support as well. They even had a deal with Perp Games to bring it up on the disc for everyone who wants to buy it, to have it in their collection and to play Snow. A very nice game, and it's a genre that it's nowhere to be seen on PlayStation VR department. Horror games, plenty of them, puzzles games, too many of them, escape room games, wave shooters, so many same games, but to have more variety, Snow would be nice, but sadly the developers said they tried and they wanted to have it in VR, but obviously the money is the issue, the optimization is the issue, and it's all just one big issue to bring the games to PlayStation VR. Some games are just easier to make for VR and some are not, and Snow proves to be one of them games which are not that easy to make in VR, so sadly it's not happening. Number 3. Project Boundary, part of China Hero Project, and China Hero Project is the project where Sony says, okay, Chinese developers, we come here to help you a bit, we're gonna help you make your games, I know you struggle, but don't worry, with our support you will do it. And Project Boundary is zero gravity space shooter that will still happen and it will come to PS4, but sadly the developers said they just don't have time and resources to optimize it for PlayStation VR. Same old story of the game being too hard to port. Judging by the trailers and what they released, the game looks beautiful, the gameplay looks quite fun as well, looks like one of them addictive games and looks like something which actually would be perfectly fitted for PlayStation VR with that zero-G gameplay, but no, cannot happen. Mad. Number 2. Get Even. This one coming from the developers of Chernobyl VR Experience, so they know how to do VR, and actually they've been trying up to the last moment to bring this game to PlayStation VR. They even had big publisher behind them, which was Bandai Namco, a company who like to tease us with their VR support. Tekken 7 had VR support, which was ultimately very limited, too limited one might say, but still just showed us, just teased us, just tickle our G-spots how cool Tekken would be in VR. Now recently they obviously released Ace Combat 7, which VR missions are absolutely fantastic and absolute blast, but it's only 3 of them. We've got even the company Farm 51, they really wanted it to have it in VR. Even in the game you put in like a headset on to relieve your memories, like a VR headset. They really tried to the end, but eventually they said it just cannot happen, it's impossible for us to do, so we're just gonna scrap it. Very big shame, because this could have been one of the biggest releases for PlayStation VR. The game is kind of good from reviews what I watched, but it looks like VR would take it to another level, so it's a bit of a shame. And now, number 1. Project Cars 2 and Project Cars 1 in fact. Regarding PlayStation VR support, we're gonna go by Project Cars 2. People was hoping for Project Cars 1 to have VR support, but sadly it didn't happen, it's only happened on PC. They couldn't bring it to PSVR, but when they started making Project Cars 2, they did some interviews talking about PlayStation VR support. Speaking with Red Bull, the developers said, we all gadget freaks at our studio, so if there's any wheel, pedal, VR, second screen, apps, triple screen, 21:9 monitors or consoles, yeah, PlayStation VR, PS4, PS4 Pro, and also Project Scorpio, we will always be looking to utilize them in some way. And then they went on to talking about PlayStation VR. With PSVR, we can't confirm that it's definitely coming, but our team are hard at work on it, so they definitely was working for it. But he explained that there is few restrictions they have because they put in a lot in the game, and of course hardware is a bit limited, but nevertheless they said they working hard on PlayStation VR support. And then few months after on Twitter they said, no, it's not coming to PlayStation VR, we can't do it. So here you go, that's the list of cancelled PlayStation VR games. They all look like they could have been great, but sadly we will never see them, unless maybe in the future something happen, the fairy of VR happiness will come and say, I'm bringing it all to PSVR now. Highly doubtable, but maybe. Anyway, that's it, bye.